with it comes both the challenges and opportunities. Now, one of the big things that had been talked about was how do we make India, or Delhi at least, or any airport that you like, into a global aviation hub. We saw how Dubai, Qatar, Singapore, all smaller places, but they form the hub of our traffic. What are the 4 or 5 things you think we need to be doing, or what you're planning to do to ensure that we get there?
So first of all, thank you for the introduction, and also I'm very happy to be here participating in the India Today Conclave. And coming to your question of how do we make Delhi a hub, and this has been on the cards for the Indian civil aviation sector for a long time, and there has been consistent progress. Not enough to call it a hub right now, but we are in the process of making it a hub. And some of the important points that we are trying to stress on so that we can call it a hub is the infrastructure becomes the basic foundation for it. And you have seen these airports in Dubai, Abu Dhabi or Singapore, how they have transformed the total look and feel and the comfort of the airports. And so that is the international global standards that you need to bring to Delhi. We are up to standard, up to mark when it comes to the Asian countries or let's say domestically, but at the global standards we have a lot more progress to do. So we are pushing the operator there to improve the standards, to bring in more infrastructural facilities so that all the services which matter for a hub get catered at that point. Second thing, we are speaking to the airlines to give better connectivity. And whenever you talk about a hub, it is about how easily you can connect it to the next destination. And here we are following a pattern where Delhi becomes a hub and spoke model where it gets connected to all the important cities, if necessary tier 2 cities at a proper time so that the people can come to Delhi and from there within 2 or 3 hour transit window, they can fly to any destination across the globe. So here the domestic connectivity and international connectivity become the key. When it comes to international connectivity, we are in continuous discussion with all the countries where the demand is for people to move directly from India. If you don't cater to that direct demand, people will find the next alternative. And there are people pouncing on the Indian passengers right now to please come to our airport and we'll connect you to the destinations across the world. So to break that pattern, we need our airline operators, the Indian airline operators, to improve their fleet, to bring in more planes into their kitty and to connect them globally and to the important demand-driven destinations immediately. So that is one thing we are trying to promote. Third thing I would talk about is the immigration and security, which also becomes a key. When you're talking about an international hub, there are people coming in from the country, people coming in across the globe using our airport as a transit. So how easily do you facilitate? See, this is where it becomes a very key point because when you go to Delhi, you almost feel like you're at home. That is how they make you feel.
Right.
They make you feel that this is just built for yourself. So that kind of experience, the passenger experience, no matter if he's coming from the corner of the country or anywhere in the world, he should feel that the airport is just comfortable for all these services that he wants. So these are the 3 major key points that we are trying to stress about. And we are in continuous discussion, and our challenge is not only to make Delhi as an airport or our vision. We want to have 3 more hubs in the country. We have Bombay, we have Bangalore, Hyderabad. So all of these can be converted into hubs. And the major opportunity that we have right now is domestically we have so many airports and we can't run international airport at every airport that we have. So if they want to travel internationally, which is the aspiring India today, everyone wants to travel abroad, everyone wants to connect to the world. So the best thing is bring them to one of these hubs and offer them the connectivity so that they don't need to wait for longer times and offer them the convenience so that it becomes seamless for them when they are transiting to these airports with the best of the facilities.
Taking off from there, one of the things that industry and stakeholders we hear from them is that the training ecosystem and the training infrastructure in India, because when we are talking about the boom, will also require skilled manpower, pilot training. What is your vision for that? Because a lot of this training, like pilot training, etc., they take place abroad. What is it that they get there that they don't get in India?
Aviation industry is an excellent job providing sector. And we have to tap into this opportunity today before other countries take advantage. Now it is a global topic, aviation. Flight is a flight anywhere. pilot is a pilot who can fly the plane. He can come from any country. Engineer can come from any country. So if you are not able to cater for the demand that you're creating, there are people who want to get into this sector and come in and occupy that space. So we are very vigilant on that aspect. The demand that we are trying to create, so there are two aspects of it. One is the airlines itself. Each airline, to one aircraft to run, you need up to 20 pilots for it to run seamlessly through its schedule and all that. So imagine we have 1700 more planes coming into our fleet in the next 10 years. We have orders of up to 1700 planes, and how many pilots are required for that? So one basic example, just to address this pilots issue, we are producing enough right now, but we have to cater for the demand. If we don't plan now, tomorrow we'll be insufficient. So we are trying to encourage more people to come into the FTO sector, flight training organizations. We are opening up airports in a much better way, seamless way, so that FTOs, whoever want to establish a new training organization, we are kind of facilitating for them, making it much more easier for them. And in terms of training, whoever is making these aircrafts, let's say Airbus is there, Boeing is there, any other OEM manufacturers, engine manufacturers, we are telling them, your biggest playground is India today. You're selling all your aircrafts, you're doing all your business within India, we have so many orders coming in. So you have to establish a training facility in India. So we are encouraging them to give that direct connectivity so that the end product which is going to be operating in India gets connected to some people who are trying to get skilled in that sector also. And overall, we are trying to map all the skills that are required. So many different aspects are there in aviation, right from, if you just take the airport, right from a car entering the airport, the parking area, to the plane leaving the runway, there are almost 150 different kinds of skills that are required, or different areas that are there. So imagine the kind of jobs that you can create by skilling the right talent in the country. So we are trying to map all the skills that are required and do an assessment on what all are already available in India. If not, how do we start right now itself to tap into that potential and do the training itself? So we are doing that process right now, and we are going at a very good pace. So I don't see anywhere in the near future that we'll have a dearth of resources, at least the workforce, which won't be able to cater for the demand that we have in the aviation sector. But the challenge here might be the challenge in other sectors also, is not just creating the number, but creating the quality with the number. So the quality is very, very important, which is why we want to have these international partnerships. We want to have the conversation with the right people who can bring in the standards and the quality also while we are training, so that I want to see that the person who is training as a pilot or an engineer or a crew or anyone, I don't want him to restrict himself to work in the Indian aviation sector. His dream should be to work across the world. That will only happen if we can create him with that global standards, and that is our vision.
So won't that open Indian pilots up for like poaching by other countries like the Middle Eastern countries?
I believe the heart of the Indian pilots is still in India only. They will first see that the advantage is to work for them in the country itself. I've spoken to them many a times. They want to work in the country itself. So I don't see any aspect like brain drain happening here.
One thing that's happened, we've seen across airports, is the Digi Yatra, and the fact that seamlessly you can walk into an airport and go through security, and you have separate channels. How much, I think a couple of metros have it now. How do you see the expansion of Digi Yatra and across the country, and what more do you want the Digi Yatra to do?
Digi Yatra has been a revolutionary success, and see, any sector, anywhere, if you're not up to date with the technology or the solutions that it's creating, you're losing out on a big opportunity. And aviation also, we had that vision that wherever possible, we bring in the technology so that the convenience for the passengers is improved. And there we created the Digi Yatra system, where if you're using the normal CISF gate, where that personnel is there and physically checking your ID and card, then it usually takes up to 20 seconds, up to 1 minute also sometimes. But if you're using the Digi Yatra portal, it just takes you 5 seconds. And it's not only at the entrance point where you're entering into the terminal. There is a point at the security check-in, you can have a separate line through Digi Yatra. At the boarding gate also, it gets verified again. So there are these Digi Yatra gates at multiple points, which gives you the additional access into having a seamless way. And just like this, because we have seen success. One is scaling up into other airports. We just started with 8 airports. Now we have reached 24, and we are trying to scale it across all the airports. Now we've seen the success. Now how do we improve it? Now we are doing it with the Aadhaar or other verification. Now we want to bring in passports also into the system.
Excellent.
Second thing, how do we make it for international travel? Now Home Affairs has done an excellent job of bringing in the immigration also, where they are doing the trusted traveler program, and we have started it in Delhi, and the infrastructure is there in other airports, where it becomes seamless for the immigration also. You don't need to go through the immigration officer. If you have all the right documents and if you register up ahead with your credentials, then you can just have a seamless way
Excellent.
of just the concept of Digi Yatra, moving it across different verticals, so the seamless travel is there. And other technological interventions, we are kind of looking at different sectors like digitizing the whole aviation sector. We want to create digital twins of all our airports so that we get real-time data. How many flights are landing there? How many flights are taking off? What is the on-time performance there? How many passengers are coming? What is the parking space that is available at this point? These are all the things that you can get with the use of technology today. So creating an exact digital twin of the airport, then it is just, you can sit in one room in front of the computers, get all the real-time data, and you can monitor the operations in a much better way. So that is the vision we have today for the airports, and some of the centers we have encouraged them to create. They have created these operation centers, digital twins, and we want to create them in each and every airport. So at any given point of time, I would know how many passengers are waiting in line in the airports. What is the baggage time of, let us say, Gwalior airport? और क्या baggage time का कितना लगता है? I want to find out all these details. So we are moving into using these technology to create digital twin, which is going to be a revolutionary in terms of policy making and taking real-time decisions.
No, I like the concept of what you say, digital twin over there. But other aspect of it, and we're being very practical in our questions, is luggage collection, evacuation, as soon as an aircraft lands. What can be done to speed up that process? Because you're now whizzing through security and you're getting there, but as the airlines picking up the luggage when it comes back, checking in, all that. Is there any plans you have to make it almost seamless and curbside checking in, all the things that were there?
See, one is the technology itself is a great facilitator right now to improve all the operations that we have. And we are trying to see each vertical individually, let us say baggage or the operations itself on how do you board the aircraft, finding the best possible way and getting down. And we are trying to create many systems. And one way is to have these civil aviation requirements. This is a document that we have where the airlines or the operators, they all have to follow certain standards. We create the policy and we expect everyone to follow, and these are the requirements that we do. And when we feel something is very important, let us say something is going overboard, we put a rule as such that they have to follow, or otherwise they'll be penalized.
Right.
So let us say we might see when we have the right kind of equipment, and we can say that, okay, if with using this equipment, there shouldn't be any delay in the baggage anymore, because the market facilitates for this kind of technology and you have to use it. If we come to that point, then we might think about creating a policy where we say that it shouldn't be delayed further than this point. If you do it, then the airport is going, then we penalize you. So these are the kind of systems we want to build.
Right.
We are presently going through that transition phase of how do we use digitalization to the maximum capacity. And we are doing vertical by vertical, and we are seeing great results. So we are very excited ourselves also to move into this.
We can see that. Abhishek, you were going to ask. Yes.
So since we are talking about Digi Yatra and the pleasure of the ease of flying, I have to ask you the question that is on everybody's mind, and that is airfares, right? Why, despite so much of competition, why do airfares go up to ridiculous levels at times, like 50,000-60,000
Predatory pricing. As we saw in the Kumbh Mela also, I think you're paying.
Yeah.
Or you could go abroad and come back with the kind of money you're paying.
So is there a cartelization at play which we don't know about? Or why can't the government from time to time step in and say, look, enough is enough? And
I know this is a sensitive issue and a very important one which keeps flagging every now and then. But one thing is, we have to understand that the prices, the raise in prices that we see is usually when there is a higher demand, a spike in demand for a certain sector or a certain route. And this usually happens when there is a holiday season and people are trying to move from one area to another in that specific time period. Or you see some mega event happening in one city and everyone is trying to come together there. Or just like this religious event that we are seeing at Mahakumbh, where people from across the world are trying to come there. I'll just take the example of the Prayagraj airport. Prayagraj airport, before the usual fares and after 26th also, when the Kumbh is going to end, if you see right now also, it will be around 4,000, 5,000 from across the country wherever we are moving. And this used to be the situation before, and there were only 15 to 17 flights operating every day. But the demand was such that we were trying to cater for more planes to come into the sector. Today, we have 110 plane operations operating single day, and we have crossed 20,000 per day in the airport itself. And
10
we
times.
have 10 times,
Huge,
and we have become the 10th largest airport in capacity handling just because of the Kumbh. And now I'm just telling you, because to see how much demand is there for people to come there. 20,000, if you consider, like they are saying 1 crore people are visiting every day, and we just have the capacity to take in 20,000 people every day. So imagine how many people are trying to reach through air.
Right.
And now when you have so many people, it is the market again trying to create that demand, and then it is. But then also, as a ministry, we don't want it to be completely at a position where they can do whatever they want. Now we see that it has been an issue which has been flagged consistently. We spoke to the airlines and we sensitized them. We told them to please revisit whatever you're doing. This is not a time when you can take advantage of the market. So we sensitized them of the issue, and this is what we do. And this happened during the Kerala Onam season, Christmas season, everything, those festivals come around the same time. And every year we see from the Gulf and from everywhere, rest of the world, the prices suddenly surge up. And there is a huge uproar in Kerala also during that time. So we made a point that we are going to sit before the season itself. We are going to ensure the airlines. We don't want to hold the stick against them. See, airlines are also very important. Now, there are around 800 planes operating. Now, if you create some kind of rupture in the system, and we have already seen some examples where airlines have exited the industry also.
Correct.
Due to bad financials. And if you create a system, let us say 50 planes are off. Let's say some airlines is not doing good, some 70 planes are off. You are cutting down the connectivity for those 70 destinations with those 70 planes are cutting. Now again it comes to the chicken and egg situation where lesser planes, then more demand, then more prices again.
Right.
So it is a very sensitive way of balancing the airlines and the prices and the people's comfort and creating the demand. At present, if I can give one statement on the overall this thing, that demand is much higher than the planes that we have in the country. So we are trying to bring in more planes into the fleet, so that if you run 2 planes from Delhi, Bombay, if you run 10 planes, obviously with the 10 plane scenario, you'll have a lesser prices. So all the high demand areas, if you can have more planes come in, then that's going to be a revolutionary way of cutting down the prices. Second thing, this also people should know, which is what goes into the airfare ticket price. Now almost 50% of it comes from the fuel tax only, which is a direct thing. And some states have a higher taxation structure. Now when you're traveling through the destinations in that state, and definitely it's going to spike up. 50% of this comes. So I have written personally to all the chief ministers.
Including your chief minister.
No, my chief minister has already done it. So he has done 1%, so there is no problem. So taking that as an initiative, I have written to all the people. It will look very political if I take names. So I won't take any names because we are keeping it below the politics here. So I have written to chief ministers who have it up to 28% also, that other states take example of other states. Even if you cut down the tax here, the whole growth that you will see in civil aviation is going to help you in multiple ways.
What's the tax for Andhra Pradesh?
1%.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And many states are doing also 1%. That's how you encourage people, growth in civil aviation.
Now, one of the things that, since we're talking about money, despite the fact there is such a big boom in aviation, and yet if you look at the figures that come in terms of losses, 2,000 crores annually the aviation sector is losing. What can be done to, is that a normal process of death, and when you are running private business this will happen? What can be done to ensure that everybody is doing well in this one?
So this is a very tricky question, in the sense it takes a lot of economic angle to study the finances of airline business and all that, and this happens internationally. It's a very sensitive business. You would have seen many examples last 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, many airlines coming up, many airlines going away, because the initial investment itself, the plane itself is so expensive, and the financial model gets so rigid that it becomes very difficult to operate a plane. And the banks also are not so cooperative also. Banks won't give you a loan so easily when you're trying to buy an aircraft. So there are many challenges. So airline industry is also finding many different alternative ways of financing. One important model is the leasing model,
right,
where it is going to improve the financial structure of the company or the airline industry. So people are moving into airlines. Supposedly X buys the airplane, X leases it to Y, and Y runs it for a certain time and he pays it as a lease to this thing. So this kind of model has been better worked out. So the world is moving into it, and people are also learning from the mistakes of the earlier airlines.
Right.
Now what went wrong with Jet Airways or what went wrong with Kingfisher, people are studying those airlines and they are trying to build up. And third point I would like to mention, earlier airlines we wanted to bring in those big planes, bring in those 180 seaters, bring in 100 planes you have to order and all this. But today we are seeing, after this Udan scheme also, that we have so many smaller airports, they are trying to find these business models where you can operate 5 or 6 airports. I'll just get 2-3 planes, might not be 180 seaters, I'll just put in 80 seaters, I'll just put in 40 seaters. There are 9-seater planes also operating. And very interestingly, in some of the sectors, smaller tier 3 cities. So now smaller players have come in where they're trying to do a very good business. And so I think the market is now very much open. People just need to find the confidence. This is for the people who want to start a business in the airline industry. And I'm kind of promoting.
Excellent.
That please come in. If you have that kind of money, then please start an airlines. I also don't want to see it as a duopoly where only 2 major airlines are operating. I want to see more airlines coming in, more people coming into this sector, smaller airlines, bigger airlines, everyone. It is open for all. We are not restricting in any other way. It is just that the financial structure is so much that it becomes very difficult for someone to start. But now India is become such a market where smaller people also, even if you have 2 planes, you can very effectively run an airline in the country.
Taking off from there, I mean, about ease of doing business, when you're asking, business houses to come and invest in India in aviation, one of the criticisms about the sector we hear is the bureaucratic delays, which is very endemic in India, and we keep hearing about DGCA. Now, how do you address that, one? And second, we've been hearing about an autonomous civil aviation authority that does away with DGCA but have an autonomous body with professionals coming in and managing. What's your take on that?
See, this excuse of bureaucracy and all, I think India has passed that stage. We have to rightfully address that kind of issue, and again we have to create more transparent systems. We have to make everyone accountable. Let it be the politician who is leading, or the minister, or the DGCA, or whoever you put in. Everyone in the system has a role and a responsibility, and they have to be made accountable. And that is what in the last 10 years, under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, we have strongly changed the whole way of governance, and we have brought in more accountability and transparency in the system. And again, the facilitator has been the technology. And in fact, in our system, civil aviation systems, because they are very tech-oriented machines and lot of systems, very strict systems where there is no room for error also. So it gets much more easier for us to create these digital systems. And one important thing you have said, DGCA, and this was there for a long time, that there seem to be multiple rumors around it and multiple challenges around it. So what we have done, we have created a digital twin for DGCA. We have done EGCA. Now all the applications that go to DGCA, where people were sitting for 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, now you can see the time also when you have applied for a pilot license, when you applied for a crew license, when you applied for an airport license. Everything is very transparent now. Everything comes online. And we can see where the file is, who is keeping the file for whatever time. So now we have created the EGC model. Now for the pilot license, again the same thing. They go through training, and once they have to apply for a license, they reach out to DGCA. Let's say someone in Madhya Pradesh, in some FTO, they has done the flying hours, and he's coming to DGCA trying to apply, bringing in all the papers, physical. He will say out of the 10 papers that are required, ek paper nahi hai, aap wapas jao. To then again, 1 month delay there. Once he applies, then he has to be given a date for verifial, then after that for examination. So imagine when you create these kind of processes, obviously if there is one bad apple somewhere in the system, then everything goes for a toss. Now that is why digital systems, now for the CPL, commercial pilot license, we have bought EPL, electronic pilot license system.
Wonderful.
Now we are just the second country after China where International Civil Aviation Organization is approved for this EPL license, and we are the second country. So we are moving very aggressively into creating these digital systems, and many of the earlier legacy issues that have been carried forward, I think it's time where we are putting a door to all of them and locking them inside, and we are opening up a new India today.
Coming to the other aspect is cargo, and possibly a revolution needed again for cargo handling. one of the things is that coming to Delhi, for instance, particularly if you're in business, getting out of Delhi by roads is going to be difficult because, there's no multimodal connection. So as soon as I land, I should be able to get out, but to get out of Delhi, you and I know that it'll take 1 hour even to move out of the city. So is there a case now to have, like they have in America where you'd studied, a separate cargo airport that will only support cargo links, that the planes flying, like FedEx has its own airport in the US. Is there such a plan in India to enable that? And if so, where would you think would be the best place to locate such an airport?
Absolutely. And when we talk about the civil aviation, our primary focus goes on to these passengers and people flying. But equally important is the cargo. And there is a huge potential still untapped. So we are trying to move into that sector also. In fact, in the finance budget that has been presented by Sitaraman Garu, she has clearly mentioned that air cargo and cargo services will be improved in the country, and we are going to facilitate seamless integration right from the product to the market, everything. So that is one encouraging thing. So the government is focusing on cargo itself. And your question about, are we thinking about cargo airports? Yes, we are thinking, because the number of airports that we have in our kitty is so huge. So where there is an opportunity for us to improve the cargo services,
right.
And let's say like Delhi airport is there.
Right.
Some don't need to, even if you bring the cargo to Delhi, when it becomes a hub point, so everything comes to Delhi, but it's probably moving to some distances which are 2 hours away also. But it gets congested because everything comes to Delhi. Now we are trying to identify these kind of places where it might be possible for us to divert the cargo to a nearby airport and then make it more specific for cargo operations.
Right.
So this is a model, and we want to create the model of cargo airports also. The naming itself is an airport, but we have to bring in the models of cargo airport where more streamlined services for cargo gets done. And this is something we are actively pursuing within the ministry, and we are going to identify some cargo airports also in the near future and work in that direction now that the budget also specifically mentions towards it.
Excellent.
So now that, the Udan scheme, obviously it's been a success for like 7-8 years now. And what are the learnings and how are you going to do it differently, going forward?
Udan has been a revolutionary scheme from the central government. It was the idea of the Prime Minister, Hawai Chappal se Hawai Jahaj ka safar. And to make it a reality, there had to be some intervention from the central government. We have created many airports. Building of airports has become an easy task now. Yeah. You have to build the runway, you have to build a terminal, you have the guidelines on how the terminal entry should be, exit should be, plane is coming, what are the standards and all that. We have mastered it now. You give us some piece of land, we'll build an airport within 1.5 years. Now the challenge is, how do you connect it? Now, how do you bring the plane there? How do you make it viable? So these are some of the questions which were left out, because airports were being built, but nobody was operating from there. So then we had to tap into that question. And that is where the Udan came into picture. Udan is Ude Desh Ka Aam Nagrik. And the scheme itself is that wherever there is a demand for these airports, there we put in some capex money and we build in the minimum infrastructure which is needed. And second, we are going to bid the route, let us say from very random Saharanpur to Delhi or somewhere. We have Kurnool in Andhra Pradesh, Kurnool to Delhi. Now nobody is going to operate. They'll feel that their viability is not there. I'll run a plane, but maybe 10 people are going to come. What about my finances? So there we are saying, if there is, we are going to bid the route, Kurnool to Delhi. Let's say some airlines has taken that route. Then with the Udan scheme, we are going to give viability gap funding for the next 3 years. Excellent. As a kickstarter for the route. And until that route gets financially viable, which we feel 3 years is the right amount of time, we are going to support the airlines so that the route gets, and our whole intention is that we have to connect Kurnool to Delhi. Right. Now this is a route which people prefer, but airlines might not want to come. So Udan scheme caters for that. This is the basic gist of the scheme. Yeah. And because of the scheme, 619 routes were started in the last 10 years. Yeah. And 1 crore 50 lakh people were traveling on these routes. So it's a huge success from what we have thought. Now because of it, after I've come in, now there was one challenge after I come in. I was talking about Udan, left, right and center, this is the best scheme and all that, but it was only there for 10 years. So I was at the closing end of the scheme. Then I immediately put in a request to our Prime Minister, to our Finance Minister, that this is what is being the nerve center for our growth. So we have to extend it, and they have been so gracious that they have accepted it. And now they have extended it for 10 more years now. And it was announced in the budget also that Udan is going to be extended And they've also said that we are going to connect 120 destinations.
Huge. Yeah.
Wow.
New destinations. So this caters for new airports being built. It can be water aerodromes where we can run seaplanes. It can be helipads where heliports where helicopter connections can be given. So we have given one sense of direction for the next 10 years, which is going to drive the civil aviation sector. And now Udan, the next scheme, just like how we have connected 1 crore 50 lakh people, we want to connect 4 crore people in the next 10 years. But I see if things are going the way they are going and we do the right things right now, then we are going to cross 4 crores. We are the third largest domestic market today. I aim for only one thing, which is to be the #1 domestic market in the whole world. I think everything is coming together here today, and with the blessings of the God and the right moves from the ministry and everyone, we are going to achieve it. No doubt about it.
We wish it very well. One final question. We've got 2 minutes, and this concerns flight safety.
Yeah.
There have been accidents in recent past. What are your thoughts on flight safety? How can we ensure, as we boom in the aviation sector, passengers can travel safely, aircraft can fly safely?
One line: safety and security, zero tolerance, no compromise at all. Any law that we do, any rule, any regulation that we bring, the first and foremost priority that we keep in mind is that security and safety, they have to be 100%, and that is how the Indian civil aviation system has been ever since its inception, and we are going to continue on that motto. And it is little disturbing to see some of the incidents happening abroad, but we have a system wherever the incident happens, let's say in US, Canada or some other country, our team requests them to give the report. So they study the report from our side and they'll assess what went wrong in that, and based on the outcomings of that report, if any necessary changes are required in our Indian system itself, so that ours can be more stringent, they do all these things. So our system is so strong itself that we won't allow for any anomalies to happen or outliers to be there. So we have a very strong system here, considering that safety and security are the topmost priority. So there is nothing to worry as such, but people might say that, okay, this happened in this. So we are trying to take it. But the investigation agency and what happened becomes the responsibility of that country's investigation agency. So they have to give us a report. Let us say it is an aircraft with such and such faulty thing. Then we ensure that that aircraft with those things get checked and they get treated in time, so that the safety doesn't get compromised. So we are thoroughly observing it, and like I said, it's going to be the topmost priority for us. No business, no demand, no passenger can any way let us compromise us on this issue. So this will be our topmost priority, that I can assure you.
Well, let's give him a very warm round of applause, Mr. Rammohan Naidu.
Thank you.
Actually, it's very good to see a dynamic minister. You've outlined your plans, the enthusiasm, and the fact that you want to make India the #1 hub in aviation. We hope that dream comes true for all of us.
Thank you so
Thank you very much, and let's give him a very, very warm round of applause.